They called the cops on me over cucumbers. Can you imagine that a man who spent 2 decades in the Marines standing on his own land selling a few jars of jam and cartons of eggs to neighbors, and suddenly 2 squad cars roll up like I'm running some kind of black market cartel? And here's the kicker, instead of shutting me down, the sheriff bought from me. That's the moment everything shifted, but to understand why, you've got to hear how it all started. After I left the service, I thought I'd finally found peace. I came home to Virginia with scars no doctor could patch and nightmares that never seemed to quit. My daughter had passed away in a car accident, leaving me to raise her little boy Evan. He was 6, all big brown eyes, and a laugh that cut through the heaviest days. I inherited 5 acres from my father, an old white farmhouse, a bit of land that had seen better days. I tilled the soil, raised a few hens, and set up a simple table out front with a sign that said, "Fresh veggies. Pay what you can." That was it. No cash register, no neon lights, just me trying to share what I had too much of. At first it was beautiful. Miss Eleanor from down the road brought me a pie after I gave her tomatoes. Vanessa, a young mom, started coming for eggs. Saturdays turned into little neighborhood gatherings, kids petting chickens, folks chatting under the oak tree. It was healing for me and for Evan. But peace doesn't last long when someone like Karen gets a sniff of control. The first letter came typed on fancy paper with a red seal. Unauthorized commercial activity, it said. I laughed, folded it neatly, and set it aside. But the second letter was harsher. The third threatened fines. And then one Saturday she came herself. Karen Whitmore, president of the HOA, in tennis whites and sunglasses bigger than her face with a clipboard glued to her arm. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask a question. She announced loud enough for everyone within 30 feet, "Mr. Nash, this event needs to cease immediately." I held a bundle of radishes, trying not to laugh. "Ma'am, it's a vegetable stand. My grandson and I grow food. Neighbors seem to like it." She ignored me, pointed to the parked cars, talked about visual disturbances and residential integrity. I read her badge and said, "Karen, this property isn't even under your jurisdiction." Her jaw clenched. She snapped back something about influence zones and enforcement areas. Enforcement, like she was commanding troops into battle. She stormed off, promising a fine within the week. I thought logic would win. It didn't. She came back with her phone out, filming license plates, taking pictures of kids. Letters piled up. Daily fines, $200 a day. Neighbors started getting calls, accusations of parking violations just for stopping by. It turned into harassment. And I'll admit, one night sitting on the porch after Evan went to bed, I felt it, the weight pressing down. I'd survived firefights, buried friends, lived with grief heavier than body armor. But this, fighting my own neighbors over cucumbers, it made me want to walk away. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was making things worse for Evan. That doubt ate at me. Evan asked one night, "Grandpa, are we in trouble?" I didn't have the heart to answer honestly. For the first time I wondered, am I the one in the wrong? Should I just stop? Sell the chickens? Pull down the sign? Hide in silence? But then I remembered why I came back here in the first place. This land carried my father's sweat, my daughter's laughter, the sound of Evan chasing fireflies. It wasn't about vegetables anymore. It was about not letting someone rewrite my family's history with a stack of paper threats. So the next day, I painted a new sign, "Farmers Market Saturday 9 to 1. All welcome. If she wanted a war, she'd get one." The escalation was something else. Cameras suddenly appeared staked into my fence line, blinking red with the HOA logo stamped on the side. Cars with tinted windows parked across the street, men scribbling notes but never getting out. Vanessa came to me, shaken, saying Karen knocked on her door, accusing her of aiding an illegal business. My neighbors were scared, some too scared to come by anymore. And I felt it slipping. Doubt again. I almost caved until that morning when 2 patrol cars turned onto my street. I thought, this is it. They'll drag me off over tomatoes. I called Evan to the porch, gave him a subtle nod, our signal from my Marine days. "Watch me, don't panic." The officer stepped out, asked for ID. When he looked at my veteran's card, his expression shifted. You were at Pendleton, right? First Recon. Suddenly I remembered him. Kelly, a rookie who dislocated his shoulder on a mud crawl I'd led. His tone softened instantly. He looked around at the tables, the jars, the neighbors buying squash. Then he turned to his partner and said, "No code violations visible. Activity confined to private property." And then he bought eggs, paid cash, no receipt, and walked back to his cruiser. 5 minutes later, Karen stormed in with her phone recording demanding citations. Officer Kelly shut her down cold. "Ma'am, this is unincorporated county land. HOA bylaws don't override state property law. Please stop filing false reports." Her face went pale. I'll never forget that moment, the shift. Neighbors who'd been afraid now started drifting back. Someone slipped a note on my porch that night. "We're with you. Don't let her win." Inside was an apple pie. But Karen wasn't done. She brought a news crew one Saturday hoping to humiliate me on camera. And who happened to be there buying pickled okra? Sheriff Nathan Walker himself. He looked at the cameraman, then at Karen, and said loud enough for the whole block, "This man is well within his rights. The HOA has no jurisdiction here. If you hear otherwise, it's misinformation." The reporter turned to Karen for a response. She stammered. The sheriff cut her off again. "Your standards don't override state code. Don't mislead the public." The cameraman left without a single accusation aired. Karen's smile cracked, and everyone saw it. Still, the HOA doubled down legal letters, threats of injunctions, talk of seizing my property. My attorney Patrice Wu filed back citing the Right to Farm Act and grandfather clauses. We gathered every letter, every photo, every false claim. When mediation day came at the county courthouse, Karen strutted in with attorneys and binders stacked high. I walked in with a folder containing the deed to my land, the zoning map, and one photo of Evan holding a sunflower taller than him. Karen launched into speeches about neighborhood integrity and threats to property values. When the mediator asked for evidence of damage, she handed over a printout from Facebook, someone complaining about hippies. That was it. The room went silent. Even her own board members looked away. Judith, one of them, finally snapped, "You've made it personal. You targeted a grieving grandfather raising a child. You crossed the line." That was the turning point. At the next HOA meeting, neighbors packed the room. George, my retired mailman buddy, stood up. "If Nash's carrots are a danger, then so is my chili at the 4th of July picnic." Judith and Carl called for a vote. Not against me, for me. Whether the market should be recognized as a community-approved activity. Ballots went around. 42 in favor, 3 opposed. Karen gathered her binder, muttered something, and walked out the side door. She didn't come back. Days later, I got a letter from the HOA, but this one wasn't a threat. It was an acknowledgement the Nash Farmers Market is hereby recognized as community-friendly, operating within state law. At the bottom, a line I never expected. "We regret the pain caused." And that's where it ended. Karen lost her seat, her control, her grip on the neighborhood. Me. I stood on my porch, dirt still under my nails, Evan humming beside me, and for the first time in months, the land felt quiet again. No cameras, no fines, no threats. Just peace. So here's my question to you. If someone tried to strip away your rights on your own land, would you have backed down, or would you have stood your ground like I did? Tell me in the comments. Because in the end, I learned something the hard way: bullies only win if you let them.